What is good, guys? This is Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here with a Security Force, Space Force, something Force, just kidding, S-Force deck profile. For those who don't know, I've been kind of testing this deck for quite a little bit, played a little bit on stream. The deck is very interesting. To be completely honest with you guys, this deck is probably just a local level deck. If you could take it to regionals, you're just taking it to have fun. At a local level, though, it could pretty much catch some people off guard. It's a control strategy, which is a little bit different than what we're here playing on the channel, because mostly we play combo. And just so you guys know, I have enlisted in the S-Force to pay for my college degree in learning DDDs. So here shortly we'll have DDDs coming your way, a really highly intensive combo deck. However, when I saw Retroactive come out, guys, this deck went really kind of piqued my interest, because the deck was at first. It seems like every S-Force card minus Rapichimaru, Retroactive, and I think Chase, every other card that was made, it seemed like Konami made busted and some little hooligan snuck in and then changed everything to be bad or significantly worse than what they are just by changing a few words. A prime example would be Dog Tag. And Dog Tag says during your main phase, your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in the same column as S-Force, where if it seemed like if they just would have got rid of that during your main phase, just said during the main phase, that card would be significantly better. Like S-Force Justify here, which is an insane Link 3 monster. If it just said 2 effect monsters plus 1 S-Force monster instead of 3 effect monsters, would have made it significantly better as well. However, despite that, guys, the deck is I think the deck's really solid, and I'm testing it. There it does every other control deck, my opinion of. This deck, every control deck does not need to make 1-for-1 trades. It has to come out ahead, especially in today's format. Unless you're Eldritch, where if you're making a 1-for-1 trade with Conquistador or Habanero, you're actually able to reset it, so trade is break even. Whereas this deck can do that in the sense of chase, when you chase for multiple cards, and other iterations like that, Justify being able to clear everything it points to is insane as well. So it definitely has those aspects where it does come out ahead instead of those break evens that most control decks now lose to. That's why I believe control decks such as Altergeist and gosh, I could think of True Draco. Even though True Draco is on the lines of Eldritch, I'd say, but Altergeist and some very other control decks kind of fall short of. They don't make 1-for-1 trades like Siliquidus bounces 1 card and that's the 1 interruption. And then any card that pluses 2 or gives you a +1, those control decks just break even. And then that combo deck is still getting that +1, etc. So we'll just quickly jump into the profile, and I'll kind of go through it on the way. There is technically 2 lists that I'm testing. This is more of a pure variant, and then there is actually a what I call Justify Turbo, where you play Neospace Connector, and Connector is a 1-card Justify, so you're able to make Justify and then set a bunch of cards as well, which is really good in a sense, but I'm still working on that list, tinking both lists here, and I'll tell you what I'll change in these lists, because sadly, again, I forgot to order some cards, so I'll talk to you about the changes, but that just pretty much guarantees that we'll get some future updates and everything like that. And before I even continue on, guys, these right here are Imperium Duelist sleeves. I highly recommend checking them out. These are their armor sleeves. They released the Pegasus sleeves, which are a little bit more firm, but for tournament play, really extensive tournament play, these right here would probably get you through minimal testing and a locals, maybe 2 or 3 locals, whereas those Pegasus sleeves, guys, those sleeves will get you through an entire month or 2 months of locals. They're really high quality, really firm. And if you guys also like the hat, Imperium Duelist, just a proud sponsor of them, so they're a proud sponsor of the channel. So we'll quickly just go ahead and jump into the profile. Enough rambling, right? So we're starting out on 3 Retroactive. So if you don't know what this card does, it has 3 effects. This is one of the cards that Konami didn't mess up. In fact, they could have made it even better, but we were not going to. Beggars can't be choosers. But when this card first came out, people were like, "Oh, it's a 1 of 2 of." I highly disagree. This card is insane. It is a minimum a 2 of. You could get away with 2, but 3 is just insane. It is a level 1 warrior. So this card right here says that if another monster you control be used as link material for an S-Force monster, which kind of hints that we might get more link monsters, you can use this card from the hand as link material. So it's already a microcoder effect. And then this card says quick effect during the main phase. You can bounce it back to the hand and then special summon a level 2 or higher S-Force monster from your hand. So if you happen to open, if you guys don't know, S-Force have tons of high levels. So Retroactive plus the Gravitino, whereas if Gravitino would just be dead in your head, Retroactive makes Gravitino live, which gets you Chase and crazy stuff like that. And then if you open Retroactive, Edge Razor, Gravitino, you get Chase plus a Justify, which is really good as well. However, the second effect of this card, or third effect, I should say, outside the quick effect, is when an S-Force monster would use its effect to pay cost, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. So this card is just insane. I highly recommend playing 3 or 2 of it. 1 is just not enough, because like I said, you'll see as we go through the list that you play certain cards that are very high level, and you need to get them out of your hand, and Retroactive is just a normal summon do that. The effect that, or not really the effect, The ability that it has to be used as link material is not an effect, it's like a condition. So like if you do like the Justify Turbo route and add this card off of his Zold and then use his Zold to summon out like Rappa, then you technically can go ahead and make Justify because it's not activating effect. So like you can use that. But yep, 1 retroactive or 3 retroactives. Do not play 1 retroactive. That's what I was trying to put out. And then 3 of the next, probably the best card in the entire deck is Rappa Chiyomaru. This card's insane. So now we're starting to get to the S-Force cards that have like column-based effects. And this card's effect says that cards in the same column as S-Force monsters have to attack the card in their column. And then quick effect, this one's not during the main phase, but quick effect, you can banish 1 S-Force card from your hand, return this card to the hand, and summon from the deck. So Rappa Chiyomaru plus Gravitino is like a 1-card combo as well. It's actually another 2-card Justified, which is crazy, which I don't think that, I mean, like when you stop and think about it, like what Justified does, it's kind of insane. However, you know, like it could be better. But this card is like one of the best cards on the deck. You want to get to this card as soon as possible. So that's why you play cards, or you would play cards like Neospace Connector, because his Zold can beam this card out because it is a warrior. And then you play cards like Idea, the Heavenly Monarch, because this card does have Squire stats, or Monarch Squire stats, so Idea can beam it out. Only bad thing about Idea is that, which we'll talk about in this list, is that it locks you from the extra deck. And Justify is pretty crazy thanks to retroactive here. So, yeah, so that's it. 3 Rappa Chiyomaru. Moving on to another 3 of. 3 Gravitino. Gravitino here is the Stratos of the deck on normal or special. Adds you any S-Force card. And then any card that is in a column, the same column as an S-Force card, gets banished when it leaves the field. So this right here, that second effect is pretty crazy because that allows your chase to be really high impact, because not only are those cards that are supposed to be getting bounced to the hand are getting banished instead, which is really good. Your most significant ending board is like maybe putting Gravitino here plus a Justified here and then having a chase set for 2. That's pretty ideal in a way, because that's a Justified negate and a bounce for 2, which is, again, you're trying to interact more with your opponent. You're trying to get those +1 advantages, where Chase is normally like a 1-for-1. Chase becomes like, Chase is 1 card. When Chase can bounce more than 1, it's just, you know, it's that 1-for-1 trading that I was talking about earlier. Chase for 2 or 3 is just insane. Moving on, 1 Platina. So I would actually like to know, like, if you guys know, like, Gravitino here looks a lot like Gravity Controller. This deck actually has ties with a lot of other archetypes, like Psy-Frames, Time Thieves, IP Masquerada plays in here. I'd like to know what Platina and I'd like to know what some of the other ones play in as. So, Platina, though, on normal special, you special summon from the banish. So, like, she's part of the 2 card combo with Rappa Chiyomaru and Gravitino. And then any card that's in the same column as an S-Force monster, lose 600 attack. So it allows you to kind of reduce stuff down, because like you really don't have a lot of heavy beaters. Not going to lie, Justify is your highest attack extra deck monster at 26. So it's not too hard to get over him. And sadly, I wish like Bridgehead gave this deck like some sort of attack boost, but it does something similar. But I would like to know what she is part of, like what lore line she's part of. Then we're on to 2 S-Force Edge Razor. I always want to call it Razor Edge. Don't ask me why, but this card's very interesting. And if you guys look at the artwork of this card actually has 6 Samurai vibes. So that's why I kind of think like this card is like tied into like the 6 Samurais in some sense. But on normal special summon from your hand at S-Force. Cards in the same column as an S-Force card cannot be used for the link summon of a link 2 or high, or link 3 or higher, I believe. Link 3 or higher monster. So this card in like some of those like rogue link matchups, such as Salads, Ignisters. I'm trying to think of what other rogue link matchup, like maybe World Chalice, Crusadia Guard Dragon. Crusadia in general, like that'd be crazy. So like if you have a board full of like, you know, S-Force, kind of really hinders the link 3 or higher strategies. Prevents you from getting access code and roll swords, which is kind of cool. However, like you'd probably want to put these guys, like occupy these 2 zones for sure when you do that. But this card I think is a mandatory 2 of. 1's too little. And like I said, if you guys don't know, Platina is level 6 and then Gravitino's level 5. So Razor Edge just allows you to get those cards out of the hand, like Razor Edge plus Gravitino. Gets you retroactive, which makes a Justify. However, with that being said, sometimes your hands are just real bad, and just getting the bodies out on field is the best. Getting like a Razor Edge plus like a Platina into 2 zones and setting like a strike or something is better than nothing, because it at least stops your opponent from making a link 3 or higher. But I digress. I just don't. This card is just, I think, mandatory at 2. I think 1's too little, 3's too many. But something else this card does is, like, when you open good, this card is, like, a very, very good extender. It just allows you to normal summon Rappa Chiyomaru. Chiyomaru allows you to summon out the, you banish the Gravitino. summon out Platina. Platina grabs you Gravitino. Gravitino grabs you the Retroactive if you already have Chase. And then you make sure you put Gravitino in one of these zones, and then you get that full board setup I just talked about with like Justify Gravitino with a set Chase. Really good powerful starter / extender for sure. Now for the last two, I am testing one Orifice and one Lapswell. Orifice, I'm not sold on yet. This card is probably, believe it or not, like on paper, one of the best S-Force cards because it is a quick effect. When your opponent's monster activates the effect, banish an S-Force card from your hand, destroy that monster. So it's the best main deck disruption, like quick effect disruption outside of like Justify. But you never get this card out. You honestly don't. Like, I have never found an instance where I'm just summoning this thing or summoning it out of any of the other ones. I would definitely maybe consider cutting this guy for like maybe a, what's it called? S-Force Showdown, which is the quick play spell that lets you special from hand or add from grave, which is really good in like the grind games and allowing you to interact on your opponent's turn. So then your opponent's turn is not just his turn, it's our turn. Lapswell, this is one of the cards that Konami really honestly needed to add a parenthesis quick effect, and this card would have been crazy. But this is one of the newer cards, same with Retroactive. If you guys are not familiar with S-Force, we got them in Bach. This card on normal or special, Reborns from the graveyard. Then you can banish a S-Force card from your graveyard, destroy all monsters in the same columns as S-Force. And if this was a quick effect, this card would be insane. But again, like I said, some hooligan snuck in last second at Konami and changed it to where it was like an ignition effect rather than a quick effect. But anyway, that's it for the S-Force cards, guys. The only card, like I said, maybe I would consider cutting is Orifice. Like, on paper, this card's insane. But again, like, the practicality of it, like, I very seldom summoned it at all. Like, in testing, I have yet to summon it, but I'm still going to try and test with it because the effect is really busted. And Orifice's, like, continuous column effect is that your opponent cannot target monsters in the same columns as S-Force cards, which I guess doesn't really, like, is not the best effect for sure. But that is it for the S-Force. Now moving on to, like, the supplement engines. Tuadia. This card is okay. It's more, like, this is a more pure variant, so this card's, so, like, it's good for what it does. You normal this, get Rappa, locked from the extra deck, Rappa, then you just do your standard old school S-Force plays before you got, like, Retroactive. And, however, very much, like, both arguments can be said about both, like, the Neo Space and this engine, is that if they Ash Adia, your turn's over. The deck does not have extension beyond that unless you play Showdown, which Showdown will special from the hand and allow you to play through hand traps on, like, Idea or Connector if you're playing it. I would just rather play Connector now that I've been testing quite a bit because Connector, like, if Connector resolves, you get a hand rip and you get a 1-card Justified, whereas if this resolves, you get a pretty much a bounced for 2. And that, I think that just Connector overvalues. In the same instance, they Ash Connector, you're not playing. Well, if they Ash Idea, you're not playing either, so unless you happen to open, like, the Showdown. Alright guys, quick announcement. If you guys want to help support the channel, you can do so by using the TCG Player affiliate link down below. Using that link will give a little bit of kickback to the channel, costing you nothing extra while helping to support the Crusade, am I right? And then if you guys also want to help support the channel, check out the Imperium Duelist link down below. Using the code TEAMCOG10 will give you 10% off your orders at checkout, and I'm a huge supporter of their products, from their deck boxes to their dice to their sleeves to their mats to everything. I've just been a huge advocate for their products for quite some time. Finally, if you guys want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a member. Get access to member-only perks and rewards. Every live stream that we do gets uploaded for members only after the live stream is over with, and you get access to custom emotes and just, you know, become part of a wholesome family. But anyway, guys, back to the video. Moving on to the spells, we are on 3 Bridgehead. I've kind of played a cutting this to like 2-1, 1 Terraforming, 2 Bridgehead, because deck thinning, you know, like Terraforming grabs Bridgehead versus where, like, this is hard. However, this is, like I said, the first iteration of the list, so please nobody judge this and put this on paper. However, this is just a skeleton you can take and start as well. On activation, you can add an S-Force monster. More consistency, we love it. This is technically your 6 copy or 3 more copies of Rapichimaru, 3 more copies of Gravitino, you know, 5 more copies of Edge Razor, etc. And this is where the card falls short after that. So the activation, great. Everything else kind of very cliche, doesn't really, like, it does come up, but it could have been better. S-Force monsters in the same column as an opponent's monster cannot be destroyed by battle. That's an activating effect. It should have had the ability to shuffle back banished or S-Force cards in your hand, then, like, draw a card, or, you know, mulligan. Like, it really need that potential, since if you guys haven't noticed, like, you are playing Lapswell's too high of a level, Platina, Gravitino. Like, if you open, like, hands full of Platina or Gravitino, you can't play at all. So that would be, like, really good for, like, Bridgehead to be able to shuffle those back to draw 2 more cards. Whereas, like, instead, like, it doesn't do that. But that's where, like I said, like, retroactive here comes in handy, because retroactive plus Gravitino is like some form of like disruption, whereas prior to that, before we got retroactive, if you just opened Gravitino and something else and it wasn't any way to get the Rappa, you kind of had nothing to do. You couldn't do anything. But anyway, maybe in the future we'll move this down to like 1 terraforming, 2 bridgehead. I think that's the correct ratio. I think that's like a really good ratio for field spells in general, because you got to think of the deck thinning power. Terraforming grabs you that means there's only 1 more copy in hand, whereas if I grab bridgehead, there's 2 more copies, where if I grab terraforming grabs me bridgehead, there's only 1 bridgehead left in the thing. It's just basic deck building skills, I think. So I definitely would recommend playing a terraforming instead of 3 bridgehead. Now to Pot of Extravagance in that nasty gold rare, but you know what? It does the same thing. Not much really can be said. You only care about Justify, and there's like very few XYZs. I'll show you, like, there's some cards like mostly Justify, and I really want to tune the extra deck to be a little bit better, simply because like we just need it to be better. For the utility and stuff when it does come up. But most of the times, you only want to save Justify, so as long as Pot of Extravagance resolves, you keep 1 Justify in there, you're good. You need this to keep advantage, for sure, whether you're drawing up extension or more cards that allow disruption, etc. Extravagance is really good in this deck. You technically, if you don't want to dish out the $10 or the $20 for Extravagance, you could 100% play Allure of Darkness, and then you just kind of like play Specimen, which I think Specimen's awful. I don't think it's that good, because it's too restrictive. It's not like Call of the Haunted, but if you are playing like Allure of Darkness, you just played more like 1 or 2 specimens, and then like it allows you to get massive benefit on the Allure because you banish the darks, then you can specimen them back. Like, even it's just, there's a lot of different avenues to take on this deck. But yeah, Allure of Darkness could be played instead of Extravagance if you don't want to dish out the money. 3 Chalice, I really like this card. This and I believe in Perm are really good at answering DPE, and with Brave Token DPE floating around, that dang Griffin Rider is around as well. Being able to Chalice, or like, you know, in Perm, they negate with Chalice, or they negate with the Griffin Rider, then you chain Chalice to the Griffin Rider. Solving 2 cards with 2 cards, you know, 2 for 2 trade is really good. Especially since this can also be used during the damage step. Because like I said, Justify is your biggest card, so if you need to get over something that's like 3,000 or more, it's kind of rough, but at least with like Justify, you can move it over to his column, and Platina's out, it loses 600, and then if you need to, you can Chalice your Justify to make it bigger. So, I do recommend playing 3 Chalice. Or if you don't want to play Chalice, Hand Trap. Like 6 Hand Traps, I believe, is correct. You don't want to brick on too many Hand Traps, especially in a deck that's already, like, can brick, you know. For, like, broken one-ofs, Dimensional Fissure, Harpies, and Reinforcement Army. This searches Rappa, this searches Adia, this searches Retroactive. It just searches so much of the deck, you just have to play the 1 Rhoda. Harpies, now that IO is out of the format, Harpies is a good just call to main deck. You know, like, you are a control deck, but you can definitely get, like, if you go up against, like, Eldritch, you can 100% get outpaced. So at least by having Harpies to completely ban it, or, you know, hit all their stuff away. But even then, the deck's going to struggle because Eldritch is going to, like, banish, reset. So at least gives you, like, a fighting chance, at least in some of those matchups. And then Defissure, you don't have to play this card. The deck just kind of works around with it. I know there's going to be a card that gets brought up, and that's going to be Dimensional Shifter, and I just haven't ordered mine yet. Dimensional Shifter is a very good hand trap this deck can play. I highly recommend it. My only disgust with that card is it's only a one-time use. You either open it in your opening hand or the card's dead, and I really don't like that because my luck, I'll draw D-Shifter for turn. I really want my top deck, my 6th card, to be really playable rather than be, oh, it's D-Shifter, you know. So, yep. Moving on to the traps, we are on to one of the best traps in the deck, S-Force Chase. And see, like, right here is, if you guys can't see, this is IP Masquerade on it right here. This card says, target face-up cards up to the number of S-Force cards you control, return them to the hand. If you have this in conjunction with old Gravitino here, you actually get to banish all those cards, because those cards were technically leaving the field, they get banished. So, really good synergy there. And then, of course, if your Rapachiamaru, your Lapswell, what else banishes? I think Lapswell, Rapachiamaru, you banish this card instead to pay the activation cost, which is really good. So it allows you to subjugate the cost of Rapachiamaru, and I guess Orifist as well, Lapswell and stuff like that. This card is what kind of keeps you going, because every turn you're trying to grab this card, and you're going to always have like 2 or 3, and every turn you're probably going to get 1 more S-Force out on the field, bare minimum. So you're always going to be S-Force chasing for 1 more card than what was originally there. So that's where like that change and that value I talked about before. S-Force Chase is 1 card, but this card is bouncing 3. It's really good, especially with Gravitino. You're banishing 3. That's insane. But you want to keep this card kind of kind of like a repetitive for the next few turns. Grab this card as soon as you can so you can keep on going. However, there is no way to recycle this card. So like once your 3's done, your 3's done. So you have to play a little conservatively, especially depending on the matchup. But again, 3 imperm. Same thought process behind Chalice. I don't want my opponent to go full combo, me draw Ash Blossom, me draw Dimensional Shifter, me draw Nibiru, and then just kind of like die. I'd rather top deck Impermanence, which is and like Chalice as well. This falls in the same line. That immediately a card I can frame one, fire off, and bait something to attempt to play rather than drawing those pesky hand traps that I would draw as my 6th card and just be dead in my hand. 3 Solemn Strikes. This card is just crazy. This card can break an entire board on itself. But this is just one of the best cards to play. You could technically play Judgment. However, I feel like Judgment is a high pay cost, you know, and your monsters aren't exactly the biggest. And I feel like Imperm could technically justify, no pun intended, playing the Judgments because strikes answer monster effects and Imperm answer monster effects. So you want to play Judgments to be able to answer blowout cards and stuff like that. However, I have found myself Strike being just fine. Strike is more impactful than the Impermanence because it destroys, negates, and destroys. And it also can hit summons in a sense as well. So you just kind of wait to see what the opponent is going to bring down so you can strike it. And again, like this card can just break boards in itself. Like, you know, if you happen to open, like you can definitely, you don't have to play like set up your board. You can definitely summon Chiyomaru, set 3, pass, and keep like Gravity in your hand. During their turn, activate Chiyomaru. They do something, you fire off Strike. Chiyomaru resolves, allowing you to get that advantage that you need to do during their turn. So like I said, the turn is no longer your opponent's turn, it's our turn, which is what we really want. There's definitely there's so many different ways to play the deck. It's forms of aggression, defensive, and stuff like that. You can literally do whatever you truly want. And then for the final card, 2 there can be only 1. This should 100% be 3. If you guys did not know, all the S-Force cards are pretty much different different types. Dia is a warrior, but she's not that. But anyway, Lapsoul, Fiend, Cyverse, so these guys are the same. Spellcasters, Psychic, Warrior, and Warrior. So you just have the ability to play their completely one. It's the best floodgate you can play, for sure. And this is like, we go monkey, and we flip this, and we practically, in some games, this is an auto win, especially if you have this backed up with like Gravitino, because like if you flip this and then like you have like Gravitino and like a couple other monsters, etc., and you flip this, all the monsters that are in the same column as the S-Force that the opponent decides to get rid of get banished instead, so it can cause like some massive resource delusion on their side of the field. But yeah, definitely play 3 of this. I'm definitely going to order my 3rd one, and then we'll probably be taking out the D-Fissure here. Yeah, this card just doesn't come up enough. And then, yeah, that's about it. That's it for the main deck, guys. Like I said, 40 cards. I really like the deck, guys. Like, I really, as far as control decks go, it's insanely fun to play. It's very fair, and it does have some broken aspects to it. So like I said, this deck can probably do pretty good at local. So I highly recommend if you guys want to play this deck, take it to locals. Give it a try. I wouldn't recommend anything higher, but, you know, you do you, right? I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. Moving on to the extra deck, we are on to 3 Justify. You play 3 simply, not because you ever make 3, but because of extravagance. Let me read you guys this card. This card is actually kind of crazy. This is the part where the hooligan messed up the entire card text. 3 effect monsters include an S-Force monster. Should have been 2 effect monsters, including an S-Force monster. However, you cannot summon / set monsters to the zone this card's points to. We have 3 arrows pointing to the opponent, which means your opponent can only play with 3 zones on one side of the board. Because this takes up the extra monster zone, your opponent has to play with this, and then like the other 2 down here. Which is very good against those very highly aggressive combo decks, such as Inferno Bolt. Halki Fireback strategies lose to this. DDDs will struggle against this, but I think DDD can actually DDD is probably the only combo deck that can truly like play around it in a way. Once per turn, quick effect. You can target one face-up monster, one face-up effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then you can move this card to a zone justified points to. You can only use, and then this card says, you can only use this effective S-Force justified once per turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks, you banish all monsters this card points to. So this is why, like, this card is crazy. Only thing bad about the card is the 3 effect monsters. Again, Hooligan snuck in there, but you make Justify, like I said, lock out 3 zones, a quick effect Impermanence, then you move a monster. During the opponent's turn, you use that effect to negate and move, and then once you go into battle, you just banish everything it points to. It's crazy. But Justify, yeah. Play 3 because of Extrav. For generic kind of like Link monsters. You should definitely probably play. I'll tell you guys like what you could probably play. Griffin, or excuse me, Phoenix Cerberus is correct. This should be a Nightmare Unicorn. I don't even know what this right here should actually be. This right here could probably be a that one card that's a Relinquish Link monster. Relinquish Anima, I think. Relinquish Anima. So that way, like, if you do happen to just, you know, go second in Brick, Retroactive can become your Anima. I've actually thought about playing there can be only, not there can be only one, 1-for-1. So that way, like, you could 1-for-1 out Retroactive, link it off for Anima. Anima suck something up, normal summon Chiyomaru, banish this card for Chiyomaru's cost, and then go to the races that way. So definitely something you can do. But these right here, I think the only mandatory ones I think are Cerberus and Phoenix. However, arguably, like, if you get to your end board, you're ending on Justified anyway, and Justified doesn't give you any link zones. So these are all just pretty much extra fodder. And then, like, these are probably the best XYZs you can play in the sense of what you can. Pallades, because 2 Gravitino can make this. Constellar M7. Platina plus Lapswell make M7. And then 1 Gaia Charger to smack onto either one of these. And then 1 Zeus so that, you know, you can just make Zeus. However, you can honestly, if you wanted to, you could honestly just play multiple copies. You could play 3 Zeus. You could play, you know, whatever you need to. But I do recommend playing this package because you do have the ability to make it. And then kind of after this, I have like a really bad fusion package kind of going on, which is just not the best, but I'll tell you guys what I would change. I have 3 Intis in here and 1 of this random throwaways. So if I was you guys, I would actually probably play like a Skull Knight maybe. Or you could play, you know, like, you could double up on any of, like, the necessary monsters that's not Justify for the Mad Golden Lord here, the Mad Lad here himself. For sure, do that. But then these 3 cards here, I recommend playing 1 Eldritch Intis, 1 Cyber Dragonova, and 1 Mechaba. Simply for when you go against Dogmatica and they actually make you dump 2 with Maximus, you can send this, send Nova. Nova then will bring out Mechaba, and you just have an extra form of negation that way. But everything in this extra deck outside, everything is just extra targets. The only card you truly care about is the Justifies, because Justify is, like I said, if I just read you guys this card's crazy. But anyway, guys, that is it for the deck profile. I'm sorry if I droned on. There's just, the deck is not as simple as it's made to be. There's a lot of iteration, a lot of interactions that you can do, and just a lot of explanation needed for the certain cards that you're playing. But anyway, guys, if you guys enjoy this type of video, please remember to give me a like down below. Check out our sponsors down in the links in the description. Stay tuned. I will probably be updating a how to play S-Force video just to showcase you guys like the basic combos that you can do, etc. As much as a control deck can combo, I will be showcasing you guys that. And then just stay tuned for an updated profile, because I do think I will move to the Justify Turbo list, because I think Normal Summon Connector is a lot better than Normal Summon Idea. So, yeah, that's about it, guys. But remember, guys, you guys out there, you stay safe, you stay healthy. This is Charles from Team COG, signing out.